about growth of agriculture in Telangana's economy and how the agriculture, creating employment opportunities in Telangana state and how it is contributing to the state gross domestic product and how it is helping to the aligned sectors of agriculture and the trend of production, agriculture production and productivity of different cropping patterns and what are the factors that are determining the productivity. Particularly, we are talking about agriculture sector and the growth of food and non-food crops. We are going to discuss. So, as we know that agriculture sector is a backbone for the Indian economy. At the same time, Telangana economy also. When we look at the agriculture sector, it is predominant sector of Telangana because most of the people are engaged in agriculture sector. It creating employment opportunities to the Telangana's workforce. So not only creating employment opportunities, but also it is a major source for the food security, this agriculture sector, and providing raw materials to the agro-based industries, large industries which are depending on the agriculture products. So it providing raw materials to the agro-based industries. As I said, it is creating employment opportunities, major employment generating this agriculture sector. That is the reason why it is, and also this from this agriculture sector, it is generating the demand for the industrial products. At the same time, these products are exporting to the other countries and we are receiving the foreign exchange reserves, foreign exchange currency through the exports of these agricultural products. So it is more important to discuss about the agriculture sector in Telangana state. So here, as I said, it is more important and contributing to the or creating the employment opportunities, as I said. Agriculture and allied sectors, around 18%, it is creating employment opportunities and around 55.6% of the total state workforce, labor force. So this agriculture sector is predominating. Over a period of time, when we observe particularly the share of employment, when we come across over a period, 1993 to 1994, it is around 77.9% of the employment generating from the agriculture sector. Almost 80% of the people are engaged in agriculture sector. And over later on, it drastically decreased from 80% to 56.9% in 2002 and 2003. Because people are moving from agriculture sector to other sectors like industry or service sector. That is the reason why from agriculture sector, the employment opportunities comes down. Okay. When we see, recent data 2015 and 16, 55% of the people are workforce engaged in agriculture sector. That means this labor force are getting employment opportunities. Around 50%, 50 to 55% of the people are engaged in agriculture sector. Whether this agriculture sector contributing to state gross domestic product or not, if it is yes, how much it is contributing, right? So when we see the earlier periods, okay, 93, 94, when we observe the share of this agriculture sector in particularly state gross domestic product, SDP. Okay, around 19% it is contributing to the SGDP in 93, 94. And later on, when we observe 2011 and 12, it is around 18.27%. Only almost 1.2% decreased the share of this agriculture sector to gross state domestic product. And from 93, 94, it was around 19%. Then 2017 and 18, it was 14.38% contributing this agriculture sector to state gross domestic product. So drastically, the contribution or the share of this agriculture sector to the gross state domestic product declining, because as I said, people are moving from the agriculture sector to secondary sector and tertiary sector. Secondary is nothing but industrial sector, and tertiary is nothing but service sector. So people are moving from agriculture sector to this sector. So the agriculture and allied sectors and their contribution to the gross state domestic product. When we observe these, the comparison, when we look at these allied sectors, it may be agriculture and livestock, forestry, the logging, fishery, agriculture and allied total. These are the allied sectors in Telangana state. So when we look at these figures, particularly how much it is contributing, the share of agriculture and allied sectors in the state gross domestic product declined over a period of time, particularly 25% uh, to in 25% it is in 93, 94 to 13.86% in 2013 and 14. So it is declined the allied agriculture and allied sectors contribution to the state gross domestic product. Further also, when we come across, when we observe these values, also it declined the share of agriculture sector to the particularly from agriculture and allied sectors from 72.73% in 93, 94. That comes from 2013 and 14, it was around 56%. Livestock, around it is contributing 3% in 93, 94. And this was increased from this livestock, it is increased 3 to 4.5% in 2013 and 14. When we observe these facts, the share of fishing also, it is recorded 0.56%, almost half percent in 1993 and 94, slightly increased 0.56 to 0.60%. It is increased from this fishing and all. And so when we compare our composition of this particular agriculture and allied sectors in the Telangana state, agriculture sector around 2011 and 12, it was 32%, and later on it was 30%. Then when we look at the overall the percentage, it comes decrease drastically. All the allied sectors, agriculture and livestock, forestry and logging, fishery and aquaculture and agriculture and allied total. So when we observe this trend decreased over a period of time when we observe. That is fine. And the trends in agriculture sector or agriculture productivity. This is important topic for your examination point of view also. Trends in agriculture sector. Right. So trends in agriculture sector. and particularly the production side. The agricultural production in Telangana state, mainly from the two agricultural seasonals that we know, Kharif and Rabi. Okay, the major crops produced in the Telangana state, when we classified this cropping pattern, food agriculture and non-food crops, we can say that the trend when we observe agricultural productivity of Telangana, uh, particularly over a period of time, 1955 to 56 and 2016 to 17, when we observe that food crops around 1955-56, it was around 13.78%, particularly uh, the food grains or food crops. The non-food crops, it was around 4.07%, and total productivity or production 17.85%. Okay, so if we observe from 1955 to 56 and 2016-17, 55 it was around 13.78, and 2016 and 17 it was 110.29 uh, lakhs of tons. So it increased, very highly. We can say that the productivity, the production of food grains or food crops are increased. And non-food crops, when we observe it in 1955 to 56, around 4.07%, and it increased from 1955-56 to 2016 and 17, around 44.10% of tons. So it increased almost, increasing trend. We can say that non-food grains are increased like anything. But when we observe over a period of time, 1955-56 to 2016 and 17, there is a up and downs. That means increasing trend and a decreasing trend. When we 76 and 77, it was around 27.13%, and 86, 87, it was decreased from 27 to 27, 22.9%. So it is decreased. So when we look at the 2015 and 16, 14 and 15, it was around 60.78 lakhs of tons, and it decreased from 60 to 25.55 lakhs of tons in 2015 and 16. So what does it mean from this uh, production, particularly food grains and non-food crops? There is a increasing and a decreasing trend we observe from this trends in agricultural productivity, production in Telangana state. So total production, when we observe, when we add food crops and non-food crops together, then we'll get a total production. So 1955-56, it was around 17.85% of the total production, and this trend increased when we observe 2010 and 11, it was 110.8 percent, and later it was around 145.39 in 2016 and 17. So overall, during the 14, 15 and 15 to 16, the production sharply declined when we observe, and around 55% lakhs of tons. It was highly bad period for agriculture sector, particularly in Telangana state. Severe drought and intermittent and climate conditions, and they have proved that disastrous, and particularly in agriculture sector, so that the production was decreased. But when we observe in 2016 and 17, there is a heavy bounce back of agricultural production around 145.39 lakhs of tons from 77 lakhs of tons. So there is a almost double, tripled. This amount was increased in 2016 and 17 period. That is all about the trends of the production and the productivity of principal crops, major crops. When we observe the productivity, paddy, maize, cereals and mills, pulses, food grains, groundnut, soybean, oilseeds, and sugarcane. Cotton also. So these are the productivity of different crops during the 2013 and 14 and 17 and 18 period. So when we look into these figures, uh, there is a highest percentage increase in around 74% accounted in the productivity of pulses, 74%, and the soybean also 51%. But when we talk about this sugar cane over a period 2013-14 and 17-18, it was negative trend that was decreased over this period, the sugar cane. And paddy, it was increased almost 6%. Maize, it is 33% increased in the Telangana state, and cereals and millets around 15% increased. Groundnut 23% increased overall from 2013 and 2017. So when we talk about the oil seeds, 46% increased. I know around 2013 and 14, it was around 1500 kilograms, and it increased around 46%. So what are the determinants of agricultural productivity? This is also important topic for your examination point of view. Determinants of agricultural productivity. What are the factors influencing to increase the productivity in Telangana state? Generally, there are different factors are there. Institutional factors are influencing and general factors also influencing the agricultural productivity in Telangana state. So, factors which are determine the productivity are classified into three types. One is general factors and institutional factors, and the third one is technical factors, and the fourth one is environmental factors. We are categorized into four types. These four are influencing the productivity of agriculture in Telangana state. So general factors, we can observe from these general factors, which are classified into again land-man ratio and rural environment, infrastructure facilities, and marginal skills, which comes under the general factors. So, general factors, land-man ratio. When we observe this point of view, land-man ratio, the tendency of rural population on agriculture still abnormal. What does it mean? More people are engaged in agriculture sector compared to the other countries and all. So according to 2011 census, it shows that the main occupation nearly around 55% of the population engaged in agriculture sector. As this has deterioration of the average size of the land holding. So when we talk about the marginal land holding, that decreased because most of the people are engaged in agriculture sector. So if the percentage of the population towards the non-agriculture sector activities, if that diverted, then the land man ratio will be encouraging and the productivity also will be increased. If the marginal productivity, if the people are engaged more in agriculture sector, their marginal productivity declines. That is the reason why we need to divert the people, the labor force to from agriculture sector to non-agriculture sectors. It may be service sector, industrial sectors. We need to uh, divert the population. That is one of the reason. So another one is rural environment. Rural environment through the transformation over the years due to number of initiatives taken by the government. So there are inherent problems like excess dependency of agriculture and a lack of slow progress in the non-farming employment and a massive or passive social psychological atmosphere and hindering the increasing the productivity. We need to overcome these problems. It may be excess and dependency of agriculture sector. We need to divert the workforce from the agriculture sector to another sector and the lack of or slow progress of non-farm employment. So psychological atmosphere also that impacting on the productivity of the agriculture sector. This is also one of the reasons. And the another reason, infrastructural facilities, the productivity of agriculture, particularly when we observe the sufficient of water is required. At the same time, sufficient of credit facilities, it may be seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, extension services, all this healthy marketing environment which are more important. But what happened? These are invariably need. These services are more required so that the expansion and these facilities are not so what we can say they conducive towards the productivity as well as the welfare of the farmers. So if these services are not in a sufficient manner, it may be if the water sources are insufficient, credit facilities is insufficient, seeds are not getting in a proper uh, and pesticides, fertilizers, if they are not getting uh, in time, so that decrease the productivity. If we provide these all the facilities, then the productivity will increases. So in order to increase the productivity, we have to enhance the income of the farmers. This area may be further the strengthened. This automatically the productivity will increase in a systematic manner. That is more important. And another one is managerial skills. Due to what we can say that poor and inconsistency of services. Okay, the farm management is not optimum level or not up to the mark. From the tilling and harvesting, there is a lot of wastage of time while harvesting time, and also money also and energy of the farmers they are going to be lose. As a result, what will happen? The productivity is not encouraging, that declines. The effective and efficient farm management is more required and inclusive factor more productivity and then automatically increases the more productivity. Institutional factors, the another reason for impacting on the productivity. So fragmentation of land holding, the land holding are being fragmented, particularly converted into the kidney bits and furthermore they have given to the rights and crisis in agriculture, landlessness and marginal sections are when we observe. So this has been impacted on the productivity of agriculture. particularly in Telangana state. And tenant farming, as we know that it is estimated that around 25% of the cultivated area under the tenant cultivation only. So 25% of the cultivated land is under the tenant only. So the it is we need to overcome this. So the tenants are highly vulnerable sections of the agriculture, and most of the farm related to suicides, and they are committed to suicide, and particularly because of the tenant families. So to improve this production or productivity, the interest particularly of the tenants have to be safeguarded. We have to protect the these tenants so that we can increase the productivity. Institutional credit. Institutional credit, as we know that around 85% of the people are households, particularly they are depending on the private agencies for getting agricultural loans. Particularly, they are getting loans from the money lenders in Telangana. Around, uh, according to NSSO survey 70th round, almost 89% of the uh, people are getting agricultural loans from the private agencies. So it is negative impacting on the uh, farmers. We can say that. So the root case or indebtedness are the trap into the low productivity and low income generation, and that resultant in the poverty. Poverty increases due to increase in the money lenders. They are borrowing money from the money lenders. Around 90% people are the depending on money lenders. So this has been rectified, and immediate effect on the strengthen the institutional credit. Particularly, we have to provide, the government has to take initiatives and provide credit facilities, credit credit facilities to the agricultural farmers. So that is the reason why Telangana government started Raitu Bandhu, uh, particularly the benefited land owners to some extent. From that, they can and also, but not the tenants are indirect straits. They are provided the Raitu Bandhu scheme, particularly those who are landholders. Another one is uh, supportive prices. This is more important. Particularly, the supportive prices system also plays a crucial role in enhancing the productivity. This is mechanism. It is not helping those tiny and uh, landowners, because uh, not only tiny and tenants also who sell their productivity or produce what they are produced within uh, no time of harvesting, and they throw away the prices are to be clear the debts and to meet their daily expenses. So if they are not providing supportive prices, these tenants and tiny landowners are going to be get losses. So therefore, institutional credit support and assumed to be remunerative, and price mechanism has to be go hand to hand, that support more, and so that the productivity, agricultural productivity in Telangana goes up. This is one side. Concentration of land holding. This is another reason. So land concentration of land holding. Concentration of land holding. Land reforms in the state facilitated the successive government, particularly the government of Telangana, concentration of land holding. When we are talking about this, the Telangana government has taken some initiatives to distribution of land to the landlords through the allotment of assigned lands and land purchase schemes and some allotment to the 2 acres of land, particularly for the Dalit families. Even agricultural land is concentrated of few lands. So when we observe this point of view, దాదాపు nearly 70% of the agricultural families, which are small and marginal families, without benefiting these families, the productivity may not be increased. No, anticipated continuously, it will not increase. So we have to consider and we should focus on the marginal sections, particularly marginal and small farmers, particularly who engage in agriculture sector. Another reason is technological factors also influence the productivity. Techniques of production, the production techniques are more improving, faster way to, particularly in any state. So the farmers who needed low cost of technology, if we provide, particularly the marginal farmers and tenant, that will be more effective. So as we know the that the cluster approach as recommended by the Swaminathan to supply the farm equipment to the hire purchaser to the farmers. He has recommended this supply of farm. So just excess use of fertilizers and pesticides is not the answer to increase the productivity. At the same time, the natural pest management and eco-friendly cultivation are more required. Okay, so this is more important to conserve the soil fertility, so that the productivity will increase in a systematic manner. The input usage also more. We are talking about the technological or technical factors, how these technical factors increase the productivity, right? So in that, as I said, techniques production and inputs usage. Generally, the inputs, fertilizers and pesticides and suspicious seeds, pesticides, these are the causing the damage of the crops by productivity or income loss. They are uh, playing uh, uh, farming community particularly. So we have to irrigation potential is not being utilized optimally in spite of recent effort from the when we observe mission Kakatiya. These have to be rectified to improve the agricultural productivity, so that the input when we use in a proper manner, that will the productivity will increase. So another reason when we observe market imperfection. So market imperfection, the market structure in the Telangana state has main lacunas. We can say that uh, because the nexus between trader and marketing agencies, officials is denying the farmer. Uh, so the prices for the produce, his produce, the storage, transportation facilities still are inappropriate level to the marginal farmers and tenants. They are unable to store their, particularly the marginal and tenants unable to store their what they produce. So agricultural input and output market, which are hands of global players that may be playing with a fortune for the farmers. So it is better production and productivity that can ensure that the prices and imperative to overcome the uh, they can access to the regulated market system, and the marginalized farmers they can get benefit. Another important factor also influence the productivity, that is environmental factors. Environmental factors. The global warming is causing sudden and unpredictable changes in climate. When there is an increasing in the global warming that is impacting on the climate changes, the severe drought will happen and heavy inconsistent rainfall also will happen due to environmental and global warming. So sometimes cyclones will come, hurricanes, and that badly affecting the agriculture sector. Automatically, the productivity comes down, and also the lack of insufficient of awareness on environment protection and measures of the usage of fertilizers and pesticides due to more and more using that showing and BT and GM seeds that causing the immense damage of soil. So when there is this damage of soil, then that decreases the productivity of any country or any state, particularly in Telangana also. So that results in air and water atmosphere it is affecting, and further it regarding this soil fertility, so productivity decreases. So all these issues, particularly when we results in the productivity decreases, to overcome that, to ensure the sustainable productivity, it is mandatory to change the way of farmers toward the sustainable agriculture productivity. So we need to overcome the global warming and unexpected changes in the climate change. When we protect the environment, that leads to protect our productivity. So automatically productivity will increase in the Telangana state. Other factors also influence the productivity. There are other reasons also there. So agriculture is not only recognized as an industry, as I said, so that farmers are unable to organize themselves to get remunerative prices for their what they produce, right? So this has been affecting basically the productivity because lack of incentive to their hard work and the work for together over a period of time. That is negative impacting on the productivity. Basically, the productivity there are they need to organize the farmers in a cooperative manner and even need to provide the prices, minimum support prices for their produce. So at the same time, the farmers education is another important drawback, that factor that is changing the towards the sustainable agriculture, because out of monocropping this method they are because they should aware of the appropriate technology, which method they have to use to increase their productivity, at what time they have to use in a proper manner. That has to be maintain their expenditure, and they have to save the scarce resources, and they can get optimum production in time, and that leads to increase the income of the farmers. That is one side. And we can say that the crop insurance is another area where the farmers are not in a position to utilize the opportunity of their maximum extent. So R&D, research and development, is one of the more core aspect or concept which is reach the field of small and marginal farmers. It is more benefit for the small and marginal farmers. It regulates the confidence among the farmers, and time to time, if there is a crop failure, then this insurance will crop insurance. Through this crop insurance, uh, small and marginal farmers are going to be benefited. Then the another concept, growth rates of principal food and non-food crops. When we observe annual compound growth rates, which is gives we can observe a clear picture, particularly the over a period of time, how these growth rates are, whether it increased, the food crops are increased or not, or non-food crops increased or not, we can easily find out. So when we consider all the parameters for analysis, okay, the generally we take area of the production, area and yield with respect to the food grain and non-food crops, how much it is registered and whether it is negative or positive, we can easily observe through the uh, growth rates. So when we observe during the 1998 and 2008, except pulses, okay, almost all the variables have been a negative growth rate. It is more, preceding 5 years, particularly 93 to 98. So when we observe the period of 2003 and 8, highly encouraging period for agriculture, particularly in Telangana state. Compound annual growth rate in the area, production and yield, uh, particularly seeds and non-food grain, food crops, and it reached new height and during this period particularly because compound annual growth rate of production has increased around uh, particularly over a period of time when we observe. Then agrarian structure and land reforms, cropping pattern in Telangana state. In this scenario, we can observe the structure of this agrarian structure in Telangana state and land reforms, implementation of land reforms in Telangana state and land reforms at present situation or present context we can observe cropping pattern, determinants of cropping pattern in Telangana. So these we are going to discuss now again. So when we observe the agrarian structure in Telangana state, there are highly when we observe agrarian structure in Telangana state, highly feudalistic in nature, particularly because Hyderabad state uh, was under the Nizam rule. So the land, there are we can say that the tenure system and they are different in different manner this agriculture sector. So when we observe there are different structures are there, implementation of this land reforms in particularly in Hyderabad the state. Uh, there earlier there was Inamdar was there. So the from these Inamdars the lands assigned to the particular poets and uh, pandits and masks and madras. So what they do, the lower they carry the employees were inam lands and the beneficiaries are they are known as inamdars. Those who are having these lands we called as inamdars. So there are 16 types of inamdars are there when the uh, Nizam was there. So it was estimated more than 8 lakhs of acres of land was under the control of inamdars during the Hyderabad state under the Nizam. After that, Jagirdar system was there. The Nizam government has granted few villages to their friends or relatives and a high rank of officials in the military. Particularly, we So they acted as mediators between the tillers and the government of Nizam. So these Jagirdars are the mediators to the tillers and the government of Nizam. So the impact of Jagirdars was spread over around 6,560 villages, or around the area of 40 lakhs square miles uh, under these Jagirdars. So the number of Jagirs are increased from 1,172, particularly in 1922, to 1,500 by 1949. So these Jagirdars are mediators, particularly between the uh, Nizam and the uh, tenants. Okay. So another one is survey cost. Particularly this survey cost, the village especially retained by the Nizam for his personal expenditure that comes under the survey cost. So income, we can say that rent uh, from the different areas, particularly who deposited their uh, excurve, particularly of under the Nizam. There was around 5,682 square miles, consisting nearly 1,400 villages under the Sarf-e Khas. And some stars also there. This Prince state of Hyderabad, there are existing of a number of Hindu rurals are ruling, and a number of smaller units also there. They used to pay rent to, particularly in the form of uh, Pestraksha, and being middleman between they are the between the tiller and Nizam. Particularly when we observe around under the Nizam rule, the Jagirs with independent powers, and the big of five samstans that were spread over the 5,000 squares and miles, covering the 500 villages. Khalsa, Diwani, or Raitwari method. So under the Raitwari method, 60% of the cultivated land in a Hyderabad state was under the direct rule of Nizam. So the government used to collect the revenue directly from the farmers within the system of and from the uh, mandatory system. So the in this mediators, these mediators particularly, they assigned the right to the to collect the land revenue through the mediators through the auction. So these middlemen were known as uh, Deshmukh or Sarmukh or Desai. There are synonyms for their names, and the middlemen with their powers of revenue collection, they are collecting revenue from the farmers and occupied thousands of acres of land. Particularly, they are as big landlords. In spite of the regulatory, or we can say that introducing the this Raitwari system in 1875, particularly by Salarjee one. It was introduced, this Raitwari method, and these landlords against the farmers were further intensified. So when we talk about the objectives and scope of the land reforms, particularly in Telangana state, the land reforms, when we observe this concept, is in a comprehensive in different aspects, because it depends on the land. Land reforms are involved changing the laws and regulations, particularly for land ownership. So land reforms, it may be consisting of government or backward property, generally the agricultural land. So when we talk about the major objective of this land reform, when we consider uh, these reforms has been included around 39th schedule, part A and C of Indian Constitution related to the land reforms. So the Constitution clearly stated that ownership and control of physical resources, it may be land, water, and other natural resources of the country, should be distributed judiciary to the benefit or the entire population for the whom these resources are basic means to meet their basic needs. So under this constitution, the ownership, the control or physical resources, it may be land or water resources, if they uh, having, so the basic objective, the land reforms to assume the ownership of land to the actual tiller of the land. They are giving rights to the tiller of the land. So some of the most important objectives when we observe rational use of resources. This is one. And rising the production level, we have to increase the production or productivity and removal of the exploitation and social welfare and panel development, rising the standard of living. And these are the objectives which are included in fifth five-year plan draft. So when we talk about the scope of land reforms, it can be understood that the UNO perspective, according to the UNO, the redistribution of land, particularly the value of rent or security of the tenant, the determinants of wages of agricultural labor, the strengthening the sources of agricultural credit, and changes the policies of the taxation system, particularly on land, and improvement in organization of cooperatives, agricultural education system, and technological changes are part of the land reforms, which are more required in the land reforms. Thus, the scope of land reforms include the abolition of intermediaries, because if we abolish these intermediaries, directly the farmers can gain or get more benefit if we abolish these intermediaries. And tenants reforms also uh, required, and sealing and land holding also. These are the scope of the land reforms. So another important one is implementation of land reforms in Telangana state. So when we observe the abolition of intermediaries, as I said, abolition of intermediary between the government and a tiller of land, that is more important, because and earlier under the Hyderabad Jagirdar Abolition and Regulation Act was came 1949. Andhra Pradesh Telangana Inamdari Act as came 1955. So where peasant struggles led by the all the when we observe the Congress party, they came major factors and behind the acts to force the Hyderabad state during the Nizam rule and later unified into the Andhra Pradesh. So they eradicated the dominance of the intermediaries, particularly in various fields or various forms. And Hyderabad Jagirdar's Abolition Act was came in 1949, and also Andhra Pradesh, Telangana area Inamdari Abolition Act also came in 1955. So there are another tenancy reforms also came because large number of tenants of various farms. They are suffering in hands of owner. The land of because they are unable to reap the benefits from the government programs, and the first and Hyderabad state later AP Act were passed to protect the uh, interest of these tenants. And the another one, when we talk about the Tenancy and Agricultural Lands Act 1955, so this also protect the uh, agricultural laborers or farmers. And later there is a uh, prevention of evictim and ordinance 1952, and AP Licensed Cultivators Act came into existence in 2011, and sealing land holdings also came into existence. So AP Agricultural Land Sealing Act 1961, which was first step to for this direction, the backdrop of such uh, step was taken multiple dimensions. So in fact, this article was under the Constitution 38 Indian Constitution categorically they stated that preparative of the government and intimate measures to promote economic and social, political and economic equality in the country. So uh, when we observe the uh, for official estimates, particularly uh, there should be 10 lakh of owners with more than 10 acres of land each of the by time to introduce this act. But later the process only 4.6 lakhs of owners have gave their declaration. The supply of land should be 12 lakhs acres, but were reduced to 7.5 lakhs of acres due to you know involvement in judiciary and all the implementation process. So the land reforms in the present context, when we observe distribution of wastelands in the gross failure implementation of Land Sealing Act, the government has the thought that doing justice to the landless people by providing or distributing the land to them, the wastelands. So the government of AP earlier, they officials declare that 14.7 million acres of wasteland was distributed to the rural poor families, and also the distribution of assigned lands. Further, the government has taken initiatives, uh, another program in the name of distribution of assigned lands. Assigned lands are the government lands distributed to the individuals, institutions, or market value or free of cost. These lands, those who are no sites allocated to the free of cost by the government to the poor, can be treated as assigned land. In fact, when we observe these lands, assigned to the lands, not the new initiative for the Telangana. This Land Revenue Act was, in Hyderabad state issued guidelines back to the under the GO of 1407. So 1958, by the government of AP, they were formulated the policies of assigned land as given to the poor families. Okay, and when we observe